It was a tough night up in New York for the Washington Nationals, but it is even tougher considering you lose one of your better bats of 2023.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by Bunches. Download the Bunches app today, and when you do, our friends at Bunches have featured the Locked On MLB Bunch in the Discover tab. You can also click the link in the description / show notes to join the Locked On MLB Bunch community today. And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And of course, I'm your host, Ryan Clary. You can catch me over on Twitter at RyanClary11. And later on in today's show, the Nationals, they have the opportunity to win this series up in New York against the Yankees. We'll preview that as Patrick Corbin is going up against an opener today with Michael King of the New York Yankees. We'll preview that game 3 a little bit later on in today's show. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about some potential call-up candidates, as we all know what happened last night with Stone Garrett. It was not a good sight or scene, and let's start right then and there. When you're watching last night's game, that was just a tough scene. It really was. And even more so than just watching that and seeing the replays of it, we all saw it. And at this moment in time, the Nationals have made an official move on this. This is from the Nationals PR site. The Nationals have placed Stone Garrett on the 10-day injured list with a fractured left fibula and recalled infielder Jeter Downs from AAA Rochester. Now, obviously, it's not just going to take 10 days for Stone Garrett to recover from a fractured fibula, but it was just a tough scene, to say the least. And watching that last night and what Stone Garrett has done for this Nationals team over the last month or so as he just starts to get his feet wet. And a lot of people may say, well, he's been on the roster all year long. He got sent down to AAA at one point, came back up, and he's been really good. He's showed power. And as he's getting more opportunities since you moved off of Corey Dickerson, you're starting to see Stone Garrett elevate his game a little bit more. As his OPS is above 800, as he's getting more hits, he's hitting for average, he's hitting for power, he's getting key hits, key multi-hit games in multiple games over and over and over. That's what we've seen from Stone Garrett. And in fact, you could have made the argument that Stone Garrett, outside of C.J. Abrams, has probably had the biggest growth so far in 2023. He has taken the biggest step up from what he started back in April. Because when we saw him at first, it was a lot of strikeouts, a lot of swings and misses. But as he's starting to get a little bit more opportunities here and there, as he started to really show off what he can do as an everyday player, that's when he started to take this big step up. And so it was just really unfortunate what happened last night, trying to make a play on the ball. In fact, trying to make a really good play, putting his full effort into it, and his leg got caught up in the fence there at Yankee Stadium, and the rest was history. It's super unfortunate for this team. It's super unfortunate for Stone Garrett, as we all saw the emotions. I know a lot of fans at home were emotional over it. I was talking to some friends, and it was a tough scene. I cannot say that enough. Just knowing the fact that Stone Garrett is not only raved about by his teammates for just being one of the better clubhouse guys, not only just being Mackenzie Gore's go-out partner. If you guys saw that last night, Mackenzie Gore was emotional in his post-game presser last night. And we all know what Mackenzie Gore is. He's this fiery, competitive guy who is usually, after a loss, not in a great mood. He did not care about last night's loss. He did not care. He was crying, emotional for Stone Garrett. Just because we all know the trials and the tribulations he's had to go through to get an everyday player spot with this team. And as he's getting this role now, this injury happens. But I will say there is no good news to take from this. But the slight positive factor of this is, as of right now, there seems to be no ligament damage. And from what I know, I'm no doctor, but I've had injuries in the past. I've had leg injuries. I've had arm injuries. I've broken an arm real bad back in the day from playing baseball. So this is something I can kind of speak on. It's a lot better to break bones rather than tear any ligaments, because ligament damage is where that will linger on, as we've seen for a lot of players in the past. So we hope for a speedy recovery for Stone Garrett, because not only does this Nationals team need him, but he was starting to come into his own. And it was just so unfortunate to see what happened and see what transpired last night on August 23rd of 2023. But let's move on to talk about this game real quick, guys, because we all know it was not a great performance from this Nationals team. And obviously, after the injury, it's tough to move on. Kevin Franzen talked about this last night after the injury, and you can just kind of tell the players were deflated. But even before that injury, this team was not playing good baseball, as unfortunately Lane Thomas and Stone Garrett in the outfield had a little miscommunication there. The ball dropped in, and that was when Mackenzie Gore was still on the mound. It just wasn't a fundamentally sound game. This wasn't the Nationals team that we've been watching over the last month or so. And that is just an unfortunate thing, because when you really look at it, am I happy with yesterday's game and the outcome? And really, even before the injury, were we looking good? No, we were not. This was looking a lot like the 2022 Nationals, where you're having balls go through defenders' legs, where you're airmailing throws, where C.J. Abrams couldn't get a throw over to home, which should have been an easy out to stop the bleeding there. You saw a lot of routine plays that have been routine for the young guys like Abrams, and he just never really made those plays. And it's not just him. It's also Lane Thomas and Stone Garrett out there in the outfield with that miscommunication there. So when you talk about what this team has done differently over the last month, when you talk about what they have done real well, it has been playing consistent baseball and doing the little things right. Last night, this team just didn't do that. Mackenzie Gore, while he didn't really look that bad in my opinion, going 4 innings pitched, giving up 4 hits and only 2 earned runs, 4 strikeouts in that frame as well. He gave up 2 home runs, but you're going up against Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge, who hit 3 home runs last night, which, is that a real surprise to anyone? A young Mackenzie Gore going up against the former MVP, someone who just hit 60 home runs last year, someone who could hit 100 home runs potentially at one point of this season. Not this season. That's a little joke there. You get the point that this is a power team, and that the Bronx Bombers, they're not called the Bronx Bombers because they don't hit bombs. When you have Aaron Judge at the top of your lineup and he's hitting 3 home runs in a game, he has 6 RBIs, that's your damage for you right then and there, because they only had 8 hits on the night. 3 of those 8 hits were 3 Aaron Judge home runs, which caused 6 runs batted in. And we all know the poor defense already. We covered that. That's already water under the bridge, in my opinion. Over a 162 game stretch, it's going to happen. These kind of blow-ups will happen. And since this Nationals team has kind of taken this turn, and how since they have played 500-plus baseball over the last month and a half or whatever it may be, we haven't seen this part. We haven't seen these growing pains, kind of what we saw every few games last year, and really every 2 games, for being honest, of 2022. You saw all the young, immature mistakes that young players like 21 and 22-year-old Abrams and Garcia were making up the middle. You saw the mistakes over at first base with Joey Meneses. You saw the mistakes over at third base and in the outfield and behind the dish. We all saw it. We have witnessed it. It was not fun. It was not a good product out in the field. But this one stinker, this one game, I'm not discouraged by it, because you're still going up against the Yankees in New York. And some people may say this is not the same Yankees team. This is the Yankees team that has entered last night's game losing 9 of their last 10, 9 straight ball games. But still, plus even after that injury with Stone Garrett, it's still really tough to play on and just continue to ignore what happened. These guys are humans as well. If you see your coworker go down like that in some big injury in your office place or workplace, whatever it may be, you're also going to be a little bit flustered. You're also going to be a little bit emotional or very emotional in that case. So it's tough to play on. So you can't really say that these guys should have played better. I'm just not cold like that. I kind of see the human side of this as well. And I think a lot more people probably should. And I think Nationals fans, they all saw it yesterday. I've seen some Yankees trolls responding to tweets. Like I saw One Pursuit Takes, our guy Kev over there, had a troll Yankees fan saying, like, no one cares. Screw that guy. That's a troll for a reason. But we all saw it. We all witnessed it. It was a very tough game. It was a very tough moment to watch for this team. And all we can do is hope for the best with Stone Garrett moving forward, because not only is he a guy that you could easily root for, kind of being an underdog factor, but he was really coming into his own as a hitter, as a left fielder, and really just kind of soaking in the moment of being a good, everyday big league player. And he was certainly proving himself over this last month as he got more consistent playing time. So I hope for the best with Stone Garrett moving forward. Hopefully it's not as bad as we may think, but it was not fun to watch that game last night. It was not fun to see Stone Garrett go down like that. And I can certainly hope that this does not happen again here in Washington, D.C. Thank you guys for making Locked On Nats your first listen every day. The Nationals play the Yankees today at 1:05 Eastern time as Patrick Corbin is going up against the opener, Michael King. You can catch every pitch of the Nationals hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Nationals there. And before we keep moving on, we got to tell you guys about some of our new friends over at Bunches. And guys, Bunches is just what I want to tell you guys about, because Locked On Nationals fans, we have to tell you about a new app called Bunches. Bunches is a new app built just for sports fans where you can chat sports in real time. Click the link in the show notes /subscription to join the app, or go to the Apple's App Store and download Bunches now. I'm telling you, you're going to love the conversations with other Locked On sports fans. Bunches is the free app where sports fans chat. Locked On MLB group chat is on Bunches. Go there now and connect with other baseball fans, chat your favorite team, and keep up with the latest MLB news. Have any questions or comments about today's episode? Chat about it in the Locked On MLB bunch on Bunches. Chat about your team every day. The slogan at Locked On Podcast Network. And download the Bunches app today. And when you do, our friends at Bunches have featured the Locked On MLB bunch in the Discover tab. You can also click the link in the description /show notes to join Locked On MLB Bunch community today. And if you guys do that, make sure Locked On MLB Bunch in the Discover tab, that is where you can find us there. And now let's get into it, as we all know what happened with Stone Garrett last night, and it was a very unfortunate injury. The Nationals, as of right now, they've already called up Jeter Downs, former top prospect, and he will be replacing Stone Garrett on the 40-man for now. But we all know Stone Garrett was an outfielder, a big power bat, and you kind of need to replace that, as he has been a key factor for this offense for the last month or so. He's been a key part to this turnaround, as we've said. As he continues to get more consistent at bats, he's continued to get better and better and better. So now you have Jeter Downs, who is being recalled as of right now, who was just sent down for Carter Kieboom after Sunday's game. So let's look into some replacements and some candidates who could be called up here relatively soon. And first and foremost, I look at someone who has been rumored to be called up basically all season long. And there's also someone else in there who's a little intriguing as well, but it is a top 30 prospect with Darren Baker, the son of Dusty Baker. And Darren Baker, while since coming off the injured list, hasn't been his usual self. You've seen the defense, and he's really primarily a second baseman. But Darren Baker has played multiple spots in the outfield here. And the Nationals in this organization, they're trying to make him a utility guy, because that's kind of where he can separate himself from the pack. He's not really a gifted hitter. There's no talents in him that really separate him like a James Wood and Dylan Cruz and all those guys at the top of the prospect list. Darren Baker is just kind of like your ultimate utility guy. solid defender. He can hit for average, not much power in his bat, sort of can run. But even then, where he's most valuable is probably on the defensive side of things. But I look at him just because of the fact that he's starting to get up there a little bit as far as age goes. And when you talk about Darren Baker, one thing that is kind of rung true with him for quite some time now is that he could be just your ultimate utility guy. I think the Nationals will actually be quite interested to get a look at Darren Baker because as he started this season, you started to see a little bit more extra base hits from him. He's hitting in key situations in which he hasn't over the course of his career so far. And Darren Baker in AAA Rochester, while his numbers aren't amazing, he's hovering around a 700 OPS so far this season. That's still nice. It's still not bad. It's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's not James Wood and the damage that he's been doing in AA, but we all know what the issue has been with James Wood so far this season, and it's been his high strikeout rate. So Darren Baker is kind of someone who really sticks out to me as someone who could come up and replace Stone Garrett. But it's not just him. It's also a new top 30 prospect that could be making this jump. And this has been someone who has kind of come out of nowhere. That is Jacob Young, someone who stole 50-plus bags just last season in 2022. And this year, he's been really, really progressive at the plate as he's got an 800 OPS on this season in AA and as well as AAA Rochester. He's hitting for average. He's stealing bases again. He's showing just a little bit more power, and he's actually, again, hitting for average, drawing walks, and doing the things that you want to see him do. And again, this is someone who could play multiple positions in the outfield as well. Jacob Young has kind of been this sleeping giant down in the minors who may not get the recognition of a James Wood, but his numbers so far this season have actually been really good. In this Nationals team, you can tell they're starting to value him by the way they're moving him up pretty aggressively. And he's only played a few games up in AAA because he just got called up a few days ago after the Dylan Cruz moves and everything from that sense. But Jacob Young is going to be someone that the Nationals could consider not only just calling up to replace Stone Garrett, but could be an extra man spot come this September. And just the way that he's been hitting, the time seems to be now. Because by this time next year, you're probably going to have Dylan Cruz and James Wood already in the major leagues. And you're probably going to have Brady House knocking on the door to be a September call-up as well. And who knows what else could come from that. Robert Hassel, name that prospect. Jeremy De La Rosa even. You could see plenty of guys like that in that kind of caliber. So I think right now could be that time for Jacob Young to get the call up in the organization. I could really see that. And I think that's an actual possibility for this team moving forward just because of what he has done at the plate. The damage and something that he just has continuously done is just be a consistent, solid hitter this year. And you've seen the improvement from 2022 to 2023. He adds a lot of different elements to his game, and he certainly has my attention over the last few weeks here. So Jacob Young is someone to watch out moving forward as who could replace Stone Garrett up in the big leagues. But let's also look at Blake Rutherford, someone who's already up in the majors, someone who has looked a little up and down, but even then, we all know, former top prospect for the Yankees, former first-round pick, former top 50 prospect, someone who was traded in that Todd Frazier deal way back in the day to the Chicago White Sox, kind of frizzled out there, never really proved himself, signed with the Nationals this offseason, and has looked really good down in AAA. But since getting that call up to the majors, it hasn't really been all that productive for Rutherford. But this could be the opportunity that he may have needed. He may need just a nice little stretch of playing there because you're going up against, well, it's a little tough to dictate this, but you're going up against a opener right-handed pitcher today with Michael King. Blake Rutherford will probably certainly be in that lineup if I had to imagine, especially going up against his old team. They're going to try to catch some magic in a bottle here and catch lightning in a bottle, rather, and try to go for the win. So I could see Blake Rutherford just kind of being that stopgap moving forward just because of what he has done down in AA this season. And what he has done is simple as this. He has hit. Not only has he hit for average, He's hitting for power. He's getting extra base hits. And really, when you talk about what this team needs and what they need to replace, you're not going to replace Stone Garrett's production, but you need someone to mimic it just a little bit, just to see what you can do. And I think that's what this Nationals team and Davey Martinez and co. will want to try and do. We'll just see what they end up doing. Thank you guys for making Locked On Nats your first listen every day. The Nationals play the Yankees today at 1:05 Eastern Time. You can catch every pitch of the Nationals. Whew, almost sneezed there. Catch every pitch of the Nationals hometown broadcast. You guys can catch every pitch of the Nationals hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Nationals there. My apologies, as I had to sneeze real bad there. So before we get into previewing Game 3 of this Nationals-Yankees series, the Nationals have a chance to take yet another series against a really tough second half opponent stretch here, as they've already taken the series against the Phillies. They've taken it against the Red Sox. Now, can they take it against the Yankees before they head down to Miami, which has been a very tough play for this Nationals team over the last year and a half or so? We'll preview that a little bit after this. But before that, let me tell you guys about our friends over at Sleeper. And guys, do you think Blake Rutherford could hit a home run tonight against Michael King? Well, you may be surprised, because I sure do. And on Sleeper, you can swing for the fences with up to 100-time payouts. All you have to do is choose 2 or more players that you like and select more or less on their stat categories like home runs, strikeouts, hits, and more. Get your picks right, and you could win big. Dynamic payouts are also live. And guys, let me tell you guys about dynamic payouts, because in short, each player projection now is a multiplier attached to it, as opposed to preset multipliers based on the number of legs in a contest. With dynamic payouts also comes more stat categories to place contests on. You can get higher payouts than other apps with less picks. Use promo code Locked On. You'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. Now we get back into it, as the Nationals get an opportunity to take this series against the Yankees today up in the Bronx. And it's going to be an interesting one, because the Nationals are going up against an opener today with Michael King. Michael King, again, has been one of their best bullpen pieces so far this season, and he has had one opener opportunity so far this season, and he looked good in it. He's been, again, one of their better pitchers so far. This is not going to be an easy opponent to go against, because this Yankees bullpen, while it's not as loaded as it was last year, it certainly has some pieces in it to where they could kind of come out on top. This is not a very favorable matchup for this Nationals team, you could say. You have Patrick Corbin on the mound with a lot of right-handed power bats in that Yankees lineup that stick out to me. You may ask, yes, Aaron Judge will be in the lineup yet again today, unless they give him the day off, which at this moment, I wouldn't think that. Not only do they have Aaron Judge, but you have Gleyber Torres, someone who can make damage in that lineup as well. Anthony Volpe. Those are 3 guys right there that, and obviously Giancarlo Stanton as well, as he just hasn't been good this season, but still, we all know he can do damage when he needs to. And this is someone who is pretty familiar with Patrick Corbin's work. So, this is a scary matchup. This is not a favorable matchup for Patrick Corbin, just because of the short porches in left and as well as right field at Yankee Stadium. And with what Patrick Corbin, his Achilles heel is in these hitter-friendly ballparks, going up against a right-handed pitching or right-handed hitting loaded team. DJ LeMahieu is also in this lineup, another right-handed bat that can do some damage. This is going to be a very, very tough game for the Nationals to win, in my opinion. You're going to have to bounce back from last night. You have to clean up the defensive effort. You have to get on base. And when you get on base, you have to take advantage of that, because not only did the Nationals play bad defense last night, but they left 5 runners on base yesterday. It was not a great performance offensively and as well as defensively as well. This Nationals team, they're going to have to clean up the act, and at Patrick Corbin going against all these right-handed bats, in Yankee Stadium when it's 320 feet to left field and 318 feet to right field, whatever those dimensions are, it's scary, to say the least. Thank you for making Locked On Nats your first listen every day. The Nationals play the Yankees today at 1:05 Eastern Time, and maybe, just maybe, Patrick Corbin can find some luck at Yankee Stadium. That would be very nice. Catch every pitch in the Nationals' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Nationals there. And obviously, today's show was a tough one. Watching Stone Garrett's injury last night was so gruesome. And it was just such a gut punch to see someone of good character like him, and really someone who was just coming to his own, who hasn't really had many opportunities in his career. It was very tough to watch. It's very tough to cover. And we just hope for the best with Stone Garrett. And hopefully it's nothing that serious and we can see him on the baseball field sometime again soon. I'll catch you guys soon. And obviously tomorrow I'll have you covered here as hopefully the Nationals can get this series win, but I'll catch you on the flip side.